Coming up tonight, the Holy Father, Pope Leo XIV, today reflected on the paralytic at the pool of Bethesda in his weekly general audience. He encouraged pilgrims not to fall into spiritual apathy. Also, first-year theology students of St. Thomas Aquinas Major Seminary in Bambui are now equipped with knowledge to cater for the emotional and spiritual needs of Christians after undergoing training on trauma management. Plus, students of the different sections of Biaka Group and institutions today participated in commemorative activities to mark the International Day Against Hate Speech. The activities were guided by this year's theme, which focuses on AI technologies promoting hate speech. These are just our top stories. Details on them and more in the minutes ahead with you. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Many thanks for joining us on the midweek edition of Divine Mercy Prime. I am Samailin for presentation. We begin the news in the church's headquarters in Rome, where the Holy Father, Pope Leo XIV, during his weekly general audience this Wednesday, reflected on the passage of the paralytic at the pool of Bethesda and warns against becoming discouraged and falling into spiritual empathy. He made the call at St. Peter's Square in Rome this June 18, 2025, as we hear in the following report with Bernard Asangne.
Continuing with his apostolic duties as successor of St. Peter, we inherited from Christ the divine mandate to teach and sanctify God's people. Pope Leo XIV in his weekly catechesis carried on with reflection on the Jubilee theme of Jesus Christ, our hope, focusing on Jesus, the healer. During this session of the Pope's teaching, he invited everyone to reflect on those moments when we feel stuck and trapped in a dead end, explaining that when hope seems useless and people want to give up, they should all look up to the gospel that describes the image of paralysis.
This situation is described in the Gospels with the image of paralysis. This is why today I would like to dwell on the healing of a paralytic, narrated in the 5th chapter of the Gospel of John.
Gesù va a Gerusalemme per una festa dei Giudei.
Jesus goes to Jerusalem for a feast of the Jews. He does not immediately go to the temple. Instead, he stops at a door where the sheep were probably washed before being offered as a sacrifice. Near this door, there were also many sick people who, unlike the sheep, were excluded from the temple because they were considered unclean. And so it is Jesus himself who reaches out to them in their suffering.
With Bethsaida being a house of mercy, which reflects an image of the church, the Pope pointed out that it is a place where the sick and the poor are gathered and where the Lord comes to bring healing and hope, and so everyone must avoid being paralyzed by disappointment.
Si rivolge specificamente a un uomo che è paralizzato da ben 38 anni.
Jesus specifically addresses a man who has been paralyzed for some 38 years. By now he is resigned because he never manages to immerse himself in the pool when the water stirs. In effect, what paralyzes us very often is disappointment. We feel discouraged and risk falling into apathy.
Gesù rivolge a questo paralitico una domanda.
Just as how Jesus helps the paralytic man in the gospel turn his view of life from fatalism to personal responsibility, which gives him the ability to walk and the mindset to write his own story, the Pope encouraged everyone to ask God for the grace to recognize where we have gotten stuck and urge them to voice their desire for healing.
The Counseling Office of the Archdiocese of Bamenda has taken proactive steps in ensuring that future priests are equipped to support the emotional and spiritual well-being of their Christians. In a recent seminar held at the St. Thomas Aquinas Major Seminary, Bambui, first-year theology seminarians received training on trauma awareness and management. Hilarion took off from our newsroom with details.
The Mother Church is dedicated to addressing the spiritual and emotional well-being of our Christians. To support this mission, it ensures that priests and others receive the necessary training. In line with this commitment, the first-year theology seminarians at St. Thomas Aquinas Major Seminary in Bambui participated in a seminar on trauma awareness and management on Tuesday, June 17, 2025. The initiative aims to prepare the future priests for a trauma-informed ministry that takes priority on the well-being of their congregation, aligning with the phrase, "The salvation of souls is the supreme law."
King Beza, I'm a seminarian of the Diocese of Boya, studying in St. Thomas Aquinas Major Seminary in Bambui, and I'm in Theology 1. True enough, I'm not yet a priest, I'm still a seminarian, but I found this trauma seminar very topical because few days from now I'll be going for apostolic work. And I think it will be very necessary for me as I go out for apostolic work because there are so many persons who are facing difficulties. And if I do not identify these difficulties as stemming from psychological problems, I won't be able to help them.
Derek Ejubi Mboe, a seminarian for the Diocese of Mamfi. And I find this seminar very, very interesting, and it's very timely, most especially the time in which we find ourselves plagued by the socio-political crisis in such a way that most of our Christians have been haggard and battered by the crisis by various forms. And I think attending this seminar is a means, first of all, for my own self, because I've also been a victim of kidnap, and also it helped me particularly to help myself to come out from the trauma which I've been suffering from. And secondly, it's going to help me a long way to help those I will meet, especially on apostolic work and even the ministry tomorrow.
The seminar was organized by the Counseling Service of the Archdiocese of Bamenda as part of the Hope and Healing Project. The facilitators focused their presentations on educating the seminarians about how to support their Christians in all aspects of life. According to a psychoclinical technician, the future priests should implement the lessons learned from this seminar in their priestly ministries.
Let this seminar not end here, but let it ignite in you a lifelong commitment to be pastors who see beyond appearance, listen without judging, and who carry the balm of healing in your words, in your actions, and in your silence. In a broken world, you are called to be proclaimers of hope.
The Counseling Office of the Archdiocese of Bamenda, coordinated by Reverend Father Peter Foleng, organizes seminar as a follow-up to a previous session held last academic year, which involved the entire school when these first-year theology seminarians were not yet part of the seminary community.
Good. I think this particular seminar was organized for seminarians, and it is a follow-up because last year the entire seminary had a similar seminar, but since the first years came in, we have not. We have to give them so that it covers up, and we'll continue to do that down the years. In fact, one of the things which I wanted to stress during this seminar is the fact that the church needs to take care of an entire person, the physical person, the spiritual person, and the psycho-emotional person.
The session on trauma awareness and management provided a platform for the seminarians to express their concerns and engage in group discussions on related issues.
We have love, attention, relationship, knowledge, peace, counseling, peace of mind, communication, happiness, advice, and recognition. How to meet these needs? The first, we have being available to listen, association with others, care for one another, showing true love, dialoguing, seeking counseling from a competent person, advocating for justice and positive thinking.
As the seminarians prepare for their apostolic work in their respective dioceses, it is expected that they will apply the knowledge gained from this seminar, striving for a more effective and fruitful ministry.
Let's stay in the northwest region, where Bishop George Nko of the Diocese of Kumbu continued his pastoral visit, and this time around he went to visit St. Willie Broad Pastoral Zone Kiyan. Having been a pastoral zone for up to 7 years now, the bishop punctuated the celebration with the soul-searching question of why Kiyan is not yet a full-fledged parish. Details with Reverend Father Jutan Laka, the Director of Communications for the Diocese of Kumbu.
We can only thank God for giving us a shepherd who knows his sheep, loves his sheep, and sacrifices a lot for his sheep.
These are the words that were used to welcome His Excellency Monsignor George Nko, the Bishop of the Diocese of Kumbu, to Kiyan Pastoral Zone on Sunday, 15th June 2025. Kiyan had been part of St. Jude's Parish Mve until the 1st of July 2018, when the Christian community gained autonomy from the mother parish Mve in view of becoming an independent parish. According to records, this is one of the oldest pastoral zones so far in the Diocese of Kumbu. It is for this reason that Bishop George commenced his reflection was a wake-up call to this Christian community, asking them why Kiyan has not yet become a full-fledged parish.
On a serious note, I am so much grateful by God's grace to be part of this celebration. It is an opportunity that we come together and learn from each other, and really to be those who are really called.
Your visit is a blessing to our community, and we appreciate your dedication to our spiritual growth and development.
It was a momentous occasion, highly appreciated by the community.
Carefully avoid for us to become a parish. Carefully avoid it. It means I said, and he said, I'm never ready. But me, I'm not ready. I'm never ready. Today, I will give now all the conditions, and I outline them one by one. This kind of community, a praying community, a faith community, a generous community, and all that in them. And also, we do other things in order to get the people in place. I think it's about time Kiyan to become a parish.
At the end of the celebration, Father Chin Godlove, a Piarist priest and priest in charge of this pastoral circumscription, told us the extent to which they are ready to become a parish.
The bishop asked if we are ready to be canonically raised to the parish. I think he gave us the criteria that we need, and I think we have been working on them, and we will continue working on those criteria. So as soon as we are ready, we will apply to the bishop.
Kiyan Pastoral Zone, when will you become a parish? The answer lies within you. May peace reign in your zone, in your homes. Peace.
My name is Noah Josh Ngali. I am from Kiyan. I received confirmation today, and I'm happy with the bishop for coming.
My name is Laurentine John. I'm one of the candidates among those who received the sacrament of confirmation today, and I'm very excited to receive the sacrament of confirmation. And I'm also praying that those who haven't received this sacrament, that may the next time that the bishop visit the pastoral zone of Kumbu in Kiyan community, that may they also be excited as how I am feeling today.
Pilgrims from the Archdiocese of Bamenda in Rome, they have completed their pilgrimage in Rome with a Pontifical Mass at the tomb of St. Peter beneath St. Peter's Basilica in Rome. The spirit-filled journey saw the pilgrims visit and pray at several sites of Marian apparition in Lourdes, Fatima and Avila. Details in this report with Franklin Fomkong.
Of Bamenda have completed their pilgrimage to Rome with a mass at the tomb of St. Peter beneath St. Peter's Basilica in the Vatican. Officiated by Archbishop Andrew Nkea, the Eucharistic celebration marked the end of a spirit-filled journey which saw pilgrims visit several sites of Marian apparition like Lourdes in France, Fatima in Portugal, and honoring St. Teresa of Avila, pilgrims also visited Avila in Spain.
I said from the very beginning, we didn't come to Rome for tourism. We came on a pilgrimage. And a pilgrimage is a journey, a spiritual journey, which we undertake to improve our own personal lives and also to pray for various intentions. We began here in the Vatican with a visit to the Holy Father, Pope Leo XIV. And it was a very wonderful start. And during that visit to Pope Leo, during the general audience, we were very privileged to be at the high table with him. And not only that, to have a group photo with him. And practically all of you here had the chance to greet him.
Visiting and praying at these sites, pilgrims testify to its importance as it gives a concrete touch to their faith.
Great out here on this pilgrimage. In fact, it's spiritually uplifting. It has grossly uplifted my spirituality. Coming in contact with our Holy Father in the Holy See. I guess it's a dream for every Catholic Christian to embark on such a pilgrimage.
To come to Rome for this pilgrimage was to come and see what I have been seeing only over the television, and to strengthen my faith. Because meaning that I came purposely to walk through the paths of all those saints that I've been hearing of them, we never seen them, or only seeing over the television. I actually saw it with my own personal eyes. So it has helped me a lot.
As pilgrims from the Archdiocese of Bamenda make their way home, they remain spiritually filled and enthusiastic to strengthen their brethren.
As other parishes across the Diocese of Buea are concerned with renovation works, St. Charles Luanga Parish Moliko Buea is not indifferent to the cause. They have embarked on a major renovation project. This project will be done in 3 phases and will give the church vicinity a new facelift. Let's get details with Nenchung Nadejme.
St. Charles Luanga Parish in Moliko Buea has embarked on a major renovation project with strong support from its parishioners. The initiative, which was launched recently, is being spearheaded by the parish priest Reverend Father Maxwell Ewang with the support of the project committee chairperson Justice Chibili Maureen and the parish pastoral chairperson Jinjong Maxellus, with a vision to revitalize the church compound and enrich the spiritual atmosphere. The renovation is set to unfold in 3 phases.
We are currently trying to extend the church. The project is actually divided into 3 phases. We're actually on the first phase, and the first phase involves the getting the foundation ready. Then we mount the pillars. After the pillars, we try to extend it inside by doing a loft. After that, the second phase will entail establishing a new roof. We do a new ceiling, a new roof. Then the third phase will actually involve trying to do some internal decoration, the windows and all of that. So those are the 3 phases of the church which we are currently working on.
He further explained that the renovation will not only enhance the beauty of the church but also provide a more welcoming and inspiring environment for Christians who come from far and near, fostering a sense of belonging and community among its members.
As you can see, we are a roadside parish, and every day the parish is growing. We have Christians from all over Boya who come to worship with us here. First, our proximity to the main tarmac attracts Christians from all over, like I've said before. So because of that, we see the need to extend the church, make it more comfortable. You know, the house of God is actually supposed to be very beautiful for its worshippers, and that is the idea behind it, that will make it more beautiful, more attractive to the Christians of St. Charles Lwanga.
The parish pastoral chairperson also emphasized that while there is no fixed timeline for the project's completion, the stakeholders are committed to seeing it through with diligence and dedication.
We are believing that we cannot really be very definite as to when we are going to finish the project, but for now we just consider that it's an ongoing project at the level of St. Charles Lwanga. And we all the stakeholders at the level of the parish, we are focusing all our efforts on it, and we hope that not long from now we'll go through it.
As the renovation efforts begin to take shape, excitement continues to grow among the Christian community, eager to witness the transformation of their church.
Away from church project news, the Biaka group made up of the Biaka University Institute of Boya, the Dr. Biaka Memorial Foundation and the Biaka Hospital today joined their voices to that of the international community to say no to hate speech as the world commemorates the International Day Against Hate Speech this Wednesday, 18th June. Staff and volunteers of the Dr. Biaka Memorial Foundation sensitized students on the dangers of hate speech. Aloysius Leke covered that event for Divine Mercy Prime.
Speech is not only a denial of essential values of the organization, but it also undermines the United Nations Charter's very core principles and objectives, such as respect for human dignity, equality, and peace. Hate speech not only affects the specific individuals and groups targeted, but societies at large. The devastating effects of hatred is sadly nothing new. However, its scale and impact are amplified today by new technologies of communication, so much so that hate speech has become one of the most frequent methods for spreading division, rhetoric, and ideologies on a global scale. If left unchecked, hate speech can even harm peace and development the world over. Reasons why the Biaka group made up of the Biaka University Institute of Boya, Dr. Biaka Memorial Foundation, and the hospital staff and students today joined the international community to commemorate the International Day Against Hate Speech through a sensitization exercise at the campus. Students volunteering at the Biaka Foundation briefed students and those writing HND at the campus about the day and the ills of hate speech. Mr. Ngateng Donat is one of the coordinators of the day's activities.
So today the world commemorates the International Day to Counter Hate Speech. So at the Biaka group, particularly the university in partnership with the foundation, they thought it wise to raise awareness about the ills of hate speech and other vices like tribalism, xenophobia, and things that separate us, and to dwell on what unites us, our cultural diversity, our pride, our individual talents that come together. It does not matter whether you are from the north, you're from the south, you are Anglophone or you are Francophone, you are white or you are black as race. Together, all of us form the Happy Biaka group, and our mission is humanity first. That's why the top administration, headed by Dr. Mrs. Francisca Hongla Biaka, they thought it wise to bring people together to raise this awareness. We are saying no to hate speech, no to xenophobia, no to cultural barriers, no to cultural differences, and celebrating the values that bring us together.
After joining their voices to the sensitization and campaign against hate speech, these staff and volunteers all outlines the ills of hate speech.
We are putting out a strong message to say that we are against hate speech, we are against tribalism, we are against xenophobia of any kind, because these are things that cause social injustice they lead to things like violence as well. So as a community that deals with people, students, we are just trying to say that we are for togetherness, we are for fairness. We do not look at where you come from, your ethnicity, we don't look at your culture, we look at you as a person, as a whole. So
now we are celebrating this day. We know hate speech is against human rights. And we just hope that all the young persons should understand what they speak to their friends or what they speak to any other person that they meet on the road. Knowing that anything that they tell them negatively, it will always have an implication. So
today, 18 June 2025, we celebrate International Day Against Hate Speech. And this day serves as a reminder for media, civil societies and individuals to take action both online and offline to identify and stop the spread of hate speech. So my advice to them is that when they are either on social media or on any platform, let them minimize or completely stop the spread of this hate speech, because it can lead to emotional breakdown and violence among.
Words are powerful. They can heal or destroy, unite or divide. Hate speech is not just offensive. It is dangerous. It fuels violence, fear, and dehumanize others. But we have a choice. We can counter hate speech with words of love, hope, empathy, and courage.
It should be recalled that we may not necessarily behave or act like others or come from where they originate, but we should try by all means to accommodate each other and stop spreading hate speech.
Thank you for that report, Aloysius Lekier. Well, as earlier mentioned, the International Day for Countering Hate Speech is observed every 18th June. This year's event is celebrated under the theme Hate Speech and Artificial Intelligence Nexus, Building Coalitions to Reclaim Inclusive and Safe Environments Free of Hatred. The goal is to foster cross-sector coalitions with governments, tech companies, civil societies, and individuals on how to use AI responsibly, ensuring it promotes safety, inclusion, and human rights rather than enabling hatred. Magdalena Wundo has more.
Hate speech, according to the United Nations Organization, has become one of the most common ways of spreading decisive rhetoric on global scale, threatening peace around the world as it incites violence and intolerance, ethnic and social discrimination, tribalism, calls for insurgency, stigmatization, disclaims, gender violence and violence against minorities constitute indicators of online hate speech in Cameroon. The UN Digital Technology expert laid emphasis on how technology affects hate speech and how to make full use of them.
Today's concerns about AI magnifying hate speech are legitimate but not new. Echoes of these concerns can be found throughout history with the introduction of radio, television, social media, and even as far back as Gutenberg's printing press. What's new, however, is the scale, potential audience, and more importantly, the capacity for AI to automatically generate hate speech. Legislation should strive to balance the right to freedom of expression and to hold opinions without interference with the principle of equality and non-discrimination. Tackling hate speech should not mean suppressing content we disagree with. Conversely, AI can also assist in tackling hate speech through the automatic detection and removal of hateful online content. AI systems based on natural language processing and sentiment analysis can automatically recognize offensive online content and take appropriate action.
The spread of messages online can lead to bitterness, contempt and hostility. Hate speech and offensive language mostly disseminated on social media platforms can go a long way to creating endless grudges. The UN digital expert also outlined ways to counter hate speech.
In the compact, they agreed to strengthen international cooperation to address hate speech, misinformation, and disinformation. They also called on tech companies and developers to create solutions to counter hate speech. For AI, these include authenticity certification, labeling, and watermarking.
Though freedom of expression is a right of every individual, it should be accompanied with an obligation of responsibility and the power that be as to adopt strong policies in order to fully control the cyberspace and to guarantee peace and security around the country. As sensitization against hate speech continues, the spread of counter speech is encouraged to ensure that hate is not the dominant narrative. It is a stitch in time with the objective to undermine hurtful content with positive messages that spread tolerance, equity, and truth in defense of the targets of hate speech.
Now on to news out of Cameroon. Authorities in Kenya have ordered the arrest of a Kenyan police officer who shot an unarmed civilian in the head on Tuesday, July 17 during a protest in Nairobi. The victim, identified as Boniface Kariuka, survived the gunshot and is currently in an intensive care hospital receiving medical care. Plus, Robert Kelly, American R&B legend, has alleged a murder plot against him after reportedly collapsing in prison and hospitalized following the incident. The 58-year-old is serving time in a federal facility related to separate convictions for child sex crimes, among others. Details of these stories and more have been compiled on our forum page. Take a view. A police officer in Kenya has been arrested over the shooting of an unarmed civilian on Tuesday during protest against pervasive police brutality and extrajudicial killings. It happened on one of Nairobi's busiest streets, leading to the outrage of many Kenyans once again who have long witnessed officers shooting or beating protesters and others. A series of images taken by an Associated Press photographer show the moments leading up to the shooting, which was rare because the officer fired in full view of journalists. Photos show two policemen run over to the man, their guns drawn. It is not clear why they did this or what was said, but one of the officers then shoots the man in the head at close range. The man, later identified as Boniface Kariuki, then fell to the ground, bleeding heavily, still holding a packet of face masks he was selling. As he collapsed, the policemen walked away. Miraculously, Kariuki survived but has undergone surgery and is currently in intensive care in hospital. The father of the young man allegedly shot in the head by the police has called for the officer to be charged. Elsewhere, South African President Cyril Ramaphosa concluded his visit to Canada on Tuesday. Canada had hosted the G7 summit, during which non-G7 members like South Africa attended the G7 Leaders Outreach Summit, focusing on issues such as energy security. According to South African presidency, Ramaphosa strengthened ties with host nation Canada and worked on strategic alignment with other G7 members. Although highly anticipated and floated by Ramaphosa prior to the summit, a bilateral meeting between the South African leader and US President Trump did not take place. The meeting would have come as a potential opportunity to improve relations after a disastrous White House visit by Ramaphosa in May, during which Trump accused South Africa without proof of committing a genocide against white South Africans.
I just saw with TikTok, I was #1 on TikTok in its history. Can you believe that?
Moving on, President Donald Trump will sign an executive order this week to extend a deadline for TikTok's Chinese owner to divest the popular video sharing app, the White House announced Tuesday. Trump had signed an order in early April to keep TikTok running for an additional 75 days after a potential deal to sell the app to American owners was put on ice. As he has said many times, President Trump does not want TikTok to go dark. White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt said in a statement, "This extension will last 90 days, which the administration will speed working to ensure this deal is closed so that the American people can continue to use TikTok with the assurance that their data is safe and secure." Elsewhere, imprisoned R&B legend Robert Kelly, commonly called R. Kelly, alleges murder plot against him in prison. The musician collapsed in prison and was hospitalized, attorneys said in court filings this week, adding the details to the singer's extraordinary allegations of a murder plot by prison officials that he argues require temporary release on home detention. Government lawyers have dismissed the claims as a fanciful conspiracy. Kelly, 58, is serving time at a Butner, North Carolina federal facility related to separate convictions for child sex crimes amid others. In a series of filings that started last week, Kelly's attorneys claim prison officials sought out leaders of a white supremacist gang to kill him and prevent the release of damaging information on prison officials. After that filing, Kelly has moved to solitary confinement, his attorneys say. They also allege he was purposely given a medication overdose and required hospitalization and surgery for blood clots, but he was sent back to solitary. It's on that foreign note we call it quit on this edition of Divine Mercy Prime. A reminder of our top stories before we take leave of you. The Holy Father, Pope Leo XIV, today reflected on the paralytic at the pool of Bethesda in his weekly general audience. He encouraged pilgrims not to fall into spiritual apathy. Also in this newscast, you heard that first-year theology students of St. Thomas Aquinas Major Seminary in Bambui are now equipped with knowledge to cater for the emotional and spiritual needs of Christians after undergoing a training on trauma management. Plus, the students of the different sections of Biaka Group and institutions today participated in commemorative activities to mark the International Day Against Hate Speech. The activities were guided by this year's theme, which focuses on AI technologies promoting hate speech. I have been Samaidin for presentation, thanking you all for your keen and kind attention. Keep it locked down on Divine Mercy Radio Television. Up next is Mountain Echoes. I'll be back here tomorrow 7 p.m. for another edition of Divine Mercy Prime. Magdalene Wundo picks up the morning news at 7:30 a.m. Good night.